I will never forget standing there in my cream dress, water dripping from my hair, as 200 wedding guests applauded my humiliation. My father had just shoved me backward into the decorative fountain at my sister's reception. His face was red with rage as he screamed that I could not even find a date, that I was an embarrassment to the family. The crowd was laughing. My sister was smiling behind her bouquet. I pulled myself up, mascara running, and said quietly, "Remember this moment." They laughed harder. Nobody knew what was coming. The day had started like any other nightmare involving my family. I had driven 3 hours from my apartment in Brooklyn to the Riverside Country Club in Connecticut, one of those places where the membership fee alone costs more than most people make in a year. My sister Jessica was marrying Todd Whitmore, an investment banker whose family had more money than taste. The wedding was everything my family valued: expensive, showy, and designed to impress people they barely knew. I am Ellie Harrison, 28 years old, social worker, and the family disappointment. At least, that is what my father George has called me since I chose my career path 6 years ago. He owns a mid-sized manufacturing company and has always believed that success is measured in dollar signs and country club memberships. My mother Patricia stopped having opinions of her own about 20 years ago, preferring to echo whatever my father said. And Jessica, well, Jessica has always been the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect job in marketing, perfect hair, perfect everything. I had arrived alone, which was intentional. The truth is, I had been married for 6 months. My husband was away on business in Singapore, and I had not told my family about him yet. Not because I was ashamed, but because I wanted one thing in my life that they could not touch, criticize, or try to control. I wore a simple cream-colored dress from a department store. Nothing fancy. I did not see the point in trying to impress people who had decided years ago that I would never measure up. The ceremony itself was fine. I sat in the back, avoided eye contact with relatives who had always preferred Jessica, and tried to feel something other than relief that this would all be over soon. But then came the reception. The Riverside Country Club had pulled out all the stops: crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, a 12-piece orchestra, champagne towers, and that massive decorative fountain in the courtyard where couples were supposed to take romantic photos. The fountain would become significant in ways the wedding planner never intended. During cocktail hour, my cousin Amanda cornered me near the shrimp display. She looked me up and down with that familiar expression of pity mixed with superiority. "So, Ellie, are you seeing anyone?" she asked, her voice loud enough for nearby guests to hear. When I said I was fine, she pressed harder. "You came alone, though. That must be hard, watching Jessica get married while you are still single." I smiled and excused myself. There was no point in defending myself to people who had already written my story. My father found me during dinner. He had been drinking since the ceremony, and his face had that flushed look that meant he was working up to something. "At least one of my daughters knows how to land a man," he announced to our table, gesturing at Jessica on the dance floor. "The other one is too busy saving the world to build a life." People at the table laughed uncomfortably. I focused on my salmon and said nothing. Responding only made it worse. But after dinner, during the toasts, my father grabbed the microphone. His speech for Jessica was glowing. He talked about how proud he was, how she had exceeded every expectation, how Todd was lucky to have her. Then, as he was supposed to be wrapping up, he turned to where I was sitting. "Now, if only my other daughter could figure out her life, I would be the happiest man alive. Ellie, why did you come alone tonight? You could not find anyone willing to be your date?" The room went silent. 200 people stared at me. Jessica looked at our father with something like concern, but she did not stop him. She never did. I stood up and walked toward the exit. I needed air, needed to get away from the eyes and the whispers. But my father followed me out to the courtyard where the fountain sat illuminated by tiny white lights. "Where do you think you are going?" he demanded. "You are embarrassing me. You are embarrassing this whole family." I turned to face him. "I am not doing anything," I said calmly. "I came to support Jessica." That is all. Support? You are ruining her day by showing up alone like some pathetic charity case. What is wrong with you? Why can you never just be normal? There is nothing wrong with me, I replied. I am happy. I am fine. I do not need your approval. That was when his expression changed. The anger turned to something uglier. You have always been ungrateful, he hissed. Your mother and I gave you everything, and this is how you repay us? By being difficult? By refusing to be part of this family? Before I could respond, he stepped forward and shoved me. Hard. I stumbled backward. My heel caught on the edge of the fountain, and I fell into the water. It was cold and shocking. The fountain was about 3 feet deep, and I went under completely before surfacing, gasping and disoriented. That was when I heard it. Applause. Laughter. Guests had followed us outside, and they were clapping like this was part of the entertainment. Some were filming on their phones. Jessica stood in the doorway in her wedding dress, and she was smiling, not looking concerned or rushing to help. Smiling. My mother was beside her, silent and still. I stood up in the fountain, water streaming from my dress and hair. Mascara burned my eyes. My carefully styled hair hung in wet tangles, and everyone was laughing. My father looked almost pleased with himself, as if he had finally put me in my place. I looked at all of them. 200 people who thought this was funny, who thought public humiliation was acceptable, who thought I deserved this. I climbed out of the fountain slowly. A staff member rushed over with towels, but the damage was done. I looked at my father, at Jessica, at my mother, at all the guests with their phones out, and I said clearly, so everyone could hear, remember this moment. All of you, remember this. They laughed harder. My father smirked. Get out of here, he said. You are ruining Jessica's wedding. Leave. I started walking toward the parking lot, soaking wet, humiliated beyond anything I had experienced before. And I had experienced plenty of humiliation from this family over the years. But this was different. This was public. This was 200 witnesses to how little they valued me. My phone buzzed in my small purse, which had somehow stayed dry. I pulled it out with shaking hands and saw 3 texts from my husband, Alex, landing in 15 minutes. Miss you. Should I come by? The last one was from 5 minutes ago. I had told him not to come to the wedding. I had said I would handle my family alone, that I would tell them about our marriage when the time was right. Now, standing in a pudding of fountain water with my ruined dress clinging to my skin, I realized there would never be a right time with these people. I texted back quickly. Don't come. It's bad. I'm leaving. But I should have known better. Alexander Barrett did not take no for an answer when someone he loved was in trouble. I made it about halfway across the parking lot when I heard the sound of car doors slamming. Not just one car, multiple vehicles. I turned around and saw 3 black SUVs pulling up to the main entrance of the country club. They were the kind of vehicles that screamed security detail and serious money, the kind my family would definitely notice. From the center SUV emerged my husband, Alexander Barrett, 35 years old, 6 feet 2 inches tall, dark hair perfectly styled despite the long flight, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my family spent on Jessica's wedding dress. He had built his first tech company in his garage at 22, sold it for $800 million at 28, and had spent the last 7 years building an empire that touched everything from artificial intelligence to renewable energy. Forbes estimated his net worth at somewhere north of $4 billion, though Alex never talked about money. He did not have to. He saw me immediately. Even from 50 feet away, I could see his expression change from confusion to fury. He strode toward me, his 2 assistants and head of security following. Ellie, he said, his voice tight with controlled anger. What happened? Alex, please, I said, trying to stop him. Just take me home. It's over. I'm done with them. But he had already taken off his jacket and wrapped it around my shoulders. We're not leaving, he said firmly. We're going back in there. No, I protested. You don't understand. They won't listen. They'll just make it worse. Let them try. He took my hand and started walking back toward the reception. I wanted to pull away, to run to my car and never look back. But part of me, the part that had been pushed down and silenced for 28 years, wanted to see what would happen. Wanted to see their faces when they realized I was not the failure they thought I was. We walked back into the reception hall together. The music had stopped. Everyone turned to stare. Whispers rippled through the crowd like wind through wheat fields. My father stood near the bar, his face already showing confusion. Jessica had returned to the dance floor with Todd, but she froze mid-step. My mother's champagne glass stopped halfway to her lips. My father recovered first. He walked toward us, his face reddening again. "What is going on?" he demanded. "Who is this?" "Ellie, I told you to leave." Alex extended his hand with perfect, cold politeness. Alexander Barrett, Ellie's husband. Complete silence. You could have heard a pin drop on the marble floor. Then, like a dam breaking, the noise started. Gasps, whispers. Jessica's voice cut through it all. "Husband?" She started laughing. It was not a kind laugh. It was the laugh of someone who thought they had caught you in an obvious lie. "Yeah, right. Nice try, Ellie." My father joined in, his laugh harsh and mocking. "Did you hire an escort for the night? Is that what this is? How pathetic can you get?" Alex remained calm. He pulled out his phone, brought up an image of our marriage certificate, and held it out. "We were married 6 months ago. Small ceremony. I can provide additional documentation if needed." My father barely glanced at it. "That is fake. Anyone can Photoshop something on their phone. You think we are stupid?" He turned to the crowd. "This is what desperation looks like, everyone. My daughter hired some actor to pretend to be her husband. Probably paid him with money she does not have." My mother stepped forward, her voice strained. "Ellie, please. This is embarrassing. Just stop this charade and go home." Other family members chimed in. Cousin Amanda. "She probably hired him from one of those escort agencies. I heard about those." Uncle Frank. "George is right. That certificate is obviously fake." Aunt Linda. "This is so sad. She is that desperate for attention." Jessica's new husband Todd had gone pale. He pulled out his own phone and was typing something frantically. He whispered something to Jessica, but she was too caught up in the mockery to listen. She stood there in her white dress, looking at me with a mixture of pity and triumph. "You always have to make everything about you," she said. "This is my wedding day. My day. And you show up with some fake husband because you cannot stand that I am happy?" Alex's jaw clenched, but his voice remained steady. "I assure you, I am very real, and this marriage is very legal. I would be happy to provide any documentation you need." "Get out," my father said. "Both of you, before I call security and have you removed." "I am not going anywhere until you apologize to my wife," Alex replied. "Your wife?" My father laughed again. "She is not your wife. She is a liar and an attention seeker, just like she has always been." He turned to me, his eyes cold. "Do you remember when you were 16 and you told everyone at school that you were going to Harvard? Do you remember how you lied about getting that scholarship? You have always made things up, Ellie. Always trying to be more than you are." That was not true. I had told one teacher I hoped to go to Harvard. My father had overheard, told me I was not smart enough, and when I did not get in, he spent years using it as evidence of my delusions. But there was no point in arguing. These people did not want truth. They wanted their narrative. The venue manager approached nervously. He recognized Alex. I could see it in his face. The Riverside Country Club had a wall of major donors in the entrance hall, and Alex's name was on a plaque for his $500,000 contribution to their youth program. But the manager looked at my father, at the angry guests, at Jessica crying in her wedding dress, and he said quietly, "Perhaps everyone should take this outside?" "No," my father said loudly. "They are leaving. Now." Alex looked at me, and I nodded. We had tried. We had offered proof. They did not want to believe it. because it did not fit their story of who I was supposed to be. We turned to leave, but Alex paused at the door. He looked back at my father and said clearly, "You are going to regret this." My father laughed one more time. "The only regret I have is having her as a daughter." We walked out to the SUVs. Alex's security team surrounded us professionally, and within minutes, we were driving away from the Riverside Country Club, away from 200 people who thought they had witnessed me being exposed as a fraud. I sat in the back seat, still wearing Alex's jacket over my wet dress, and I cried, not because they did not believe me, but because even with proof, even with my husband standing right there, they had chosen their version of me over reality. They had needed me to be the failure so badly that they could not accept anything else. The drive back toward the city should have been the end of it. We should have left that country club behind and never looked back. But about 20 minutes into the drive, Alex's phone started ringing. Then mine. Then his assistant's phones. Something was happening. Alex answered his phone. "This is Barrett." He listened for a moment, his expression darkening. "I see. Thank you for the alert. Yes, monitor it. I will call you back." He hung up and looked at me. "The video is already online. Someone posted it to social media." My stomach dropped. Video of what? You, in the fountain, us arriving, the confrontation. It is everywhere. I grabbed my phone and opened Instagram. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. There it was. Multiple videos from different angles. Me falling into the fountain. Me climbing out, soaking wet. My father yelling. The guests laughing and applauding. There were already thousands of views, hundreds of comments. Most of them were mocking me. Imagine being so desperate for attention. That fake husband stunt was pathetic. Mental health issues are real, y'all. But that was not even the worst part. We were only 5 miles from the country club when Alex's phone rang again. It was Marcus, his head of security, who had stayed behind to observe. "Sir, you need to know something." George just took the microphone again. "He is making an announcement." Alex put the phone on speaker. In the background, we could hear my father's voice, amplified through the sound system, addressing all the remaining wedding guests. "I want to apologize to everyone here for that disruption," my father was saying. "My daughter Ellie has struggled with some issues over the years. Tonight was difficult for all of us, but I want everyone to know that she is no longer welcome in this family. Effective immediately. I am disowning her completely." Gasps from the crowd. My mother's voice in the background. "George, maybe we should." But my father continued. "She will not inherit anything from me. Not a penny, not a possession. Nothing. I am going to my lawyer on Monday to remove her from my will entirely. She has embarrassed this family for the last time. Jessica is my only daughter now." More gasps. Some uncomfortable murmurs. But nobody stopped him. Nobody stood up and said this was wrong. Todd's parents, Catherine and Richard, were standing near the front. I could see them in one of the video feeds that Marcus was somehow streaming to Alex's phone. They looked uncomfortable, but they said nothing. Alex ended the call with Marcus and immediately called his lawyer. "David, I need you to document everything that is happening right now. Yes, everything. We are going to need it." He spent the next 10 minutes on the phone, laying groundwork for what I knew would be a legal battle. I sat frozen in the back seat, watching my phone light up with notifications. The video of the fountain had been shared over 5,000 times. People were tagging me. Former classmates from high school were commenting. Coworkers were seeing it. My boss at the social services agency had probably seen it. Everyone I knew was watching me get humiliated in real time. But my father was not done. When we finally made it back to our apartment in Brooklyn, more videos had surfaced. My father had spent another 20 minutes at the reception, telling anyone who would listen about how I had always been difficult, always been dramatic, always been a disappointment. He detailed every failure, every argument, every time I had not lived up to his standards. He made it sound like disowning me was an act of tough love, like he was protecting the family from my toxic influence. Jessica had posted her own statement on Instagram. Tonight was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, my sister showed up with a fake husband and tried to steal attention from my wedding. I love her, but she needs help. Please respect my privacy during this difficult time. The post had 10,000 likes within an hour. Cousin Amanda posted, "Standing with Jessica. Ellie has always been troubled. Praying for her." Uncle Frank shared the fountain video with the caption, "When keeping it fake goes wrong." Aunt Linda started a thread analyzing my supposed psychological problems. They were creating a narrative, and it was spreading faster than I could process. By midnight, it had reached local news blogs. Connecticut wedding disrupted by woman's elaborate hoax. By 2 a.m, it was on some of the bigger gossip sites. Mystery man claims to be billionaire at wedding crasher incident. I sat on our couch, wrapped in a bathrobe, scrolling through an endless stream of judgment from strangers. Alex sat beside me, his arm around my shoulders, his own phone buzzing constantly. "We will fix this," he kept saying. "We will make this right." But how do you fix being disowned by your family in front of 200 people? How do you fix videos of your humiliation being shared thousands of times? How do you fix your father publicly declaring that you are worth nothing, that you will inherit nothing, that you are not his daughter anymore? My phone rang. It was my mother. I almost did not answer, but some part of me hoped she was calling to apologize, to say she was sorry, to say she should have defended me. I answered. "Ellie," she said quietly. Her voice sounded tired. "You need to come back tomorrow and apologize to your father and Jessica." I could not believe what I was hearing. Apologize? For what? For ruining the wedding. For bringing that man and causing a scene. For embarrassing us. That man is my husband, Mom. We have been married for 6 months. Ellie, please. Just stop. Whatever game you are playing, it needs to end. Your father is serious about the will. If you apologize, maybe he will reconsider. I do not want his money, I said. I never did. Then what do you want? I thought about that question. What did I want? For them to believe me? For them to love me? For them to see me as something other than a disappointment? I wanted a family, I finally said. But I guess I never really had one. My mother sighed. You are being dramatic. This is why your father gets so frustrated with you. You take everything so personally. I hung up. There was no point in continuing the conversation. She would never understand. None of them would. Alex pulled me closer. We are going to get through this, he said. I promise. I wanted to believe him. But as I sat there, watching my phone light up with notifications, watching strangers dissect my life and my supposed mental health issues, watching my family turn me into a villain in their story, I felt something inside me break. Not my spirit, not my strength, but the last fragile thread of hope that my family might ever love me the way I deserved to be loved. That thread snapped, and in its place came something else. Clarity, freedom, the understanding that I had spent 28 years trying to earn something that was never going to be given. And maybe, just maybe, that was okay. Maybe being disowned by people who never valued you was not a loss. Maybe it was a gift. I did not know it yet, but that night would change everything. Not because of what my family did to me, but because of what I would discover about them in the weeks to come. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the fountain, heard the laughter, felt the cold water and the hot shame. By the time the sun came up, I had checked my phone 200 times, watched the videos another dozen, and read enough cruel comments to last a lifetime. Alex had early meetings, but canceled them all. He made breakfast, which I could not eat. He tried to get me to talk, but I had no words. What was there to say? My family had made their choice. They had chosen Jessica, chosen their pride, chosen their narrative, and I was the casualty. Around 10 in the morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. Ellie? It was my mother's voice, but different. Shaky. Scared. What do you want? I asked flatly. I need to see you. Today. Please. There is something you need to know. Something I should have told you years ago. I am not coming back to Connecticut, Mom. I am done. No. I will come to you. Please. Give me your address. I will leave right now. There was something in her voice that made me agree. Some quality I had never heard before. Desperation, maybe. Or guilt. I gave her the address and hung up. Alex raised his eyebrows. Your mother is coming here? Apparently. Do you want me to stay? I thought about it. No. This is something I need to hear alone. 2 hours later, my mother knocked on our apartment door. She looked terrible. No makeup. Hair pulled back messily, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual carefully coordinated outfits. She had been crying. Her eyes were red and swollen. Can I come in? She asked quietly. I stepped aside. She walked into the living room and sat on the edge of the couch, perched like she might bolt at any moment. I sat across from her in the armchair and waited. I do not know how to start this, she said finally. Then just say it. She took a deep breath. Her hands were shaking. You are not George's biological daughter. The words hung in the air between us. I heard them, but they did not make sense at first. Not George's daughter. Not his. Not. What? I whispered. I had an affair 29 years ago. With someone I loved. Really loved. I got pregnant with you during that affair. When you were 2 years old, you got really sick. Pneumonia. They ran tests, checked blood types, and George found out. He demanded a paternity test. The results confirmed it. You were not his. I could not breathe. Could not think. My whole life suddenly rearranged itself in my mind, like puzzle pieces clicking into place. He agreed to stay, my mother continued, her voice breaking. He said he would raise you as his own, but he never forgave me, and he never forgave you. You were a walking reminder of my betrayal. That is why he has always treated you differently, why nothing you did was ever good enough, why Jessica was always the favorite. She is his real daughter. How long have you known this? I asked. My voice sounded strange, distant. Since you were 2. 26 years. You have known for 26 years, and never told me. I thought I was protecting you. I thought if you did not know, it would be easier. Easier? I stood up, anger flooding through me. Do you have any idea what my life has been like? Do you know how many years I spent trying to figure out what was wrong with me? Why my own father could not love me. And all this time, you knew. You knew. And you said nothing. I am sorry, she whispered. I am so sorry. Who was he? My biological father? She pulled out her phone with trembling hands and showed me a photo. A man with kind eyes and dark hair like mine. Smile lines around his mouth. He looked happy in the picture. His name was Daniel Harrison. He was an architect. He was brilliant and funny and kind. Everything George was not. Was? I caught the past tense. He died 5 years ago. Car accident. He never knew about you. I never told him I was pregnant. I broke things off with him when I decided to stay with George. Why did you stay with George? If you loved Daniel, if George was cruel, why did you stay? She looked down at her hands. Money, security, the house, the lifestyle, the country club. I was 26 and scared. I thought staying was the responsible choice. I thought I could make it work. And instead, you made my life hell. I know. I know I did. I have watched him treat you terribly for 26 years and I did nothing. I chose my comfort over protecting my daughter. I chose money over you. I walked to the window and stared out at the street below. People were going about their normal Sunday mornings, getting coffee, walking dogs, living regular lives. And here I was, learning that my entire existence had been a lie. Why are you telling me now? I asked. Because you deserve to know why he hates you. It was never your fault, Ellie. None of it was ever your fault. You were a good kid, a smart kid, a kind kid. And he punished you for something that was my fault, not yours. I turned to look at her. You let him push me into a fountain last night. You stood there and did nothing while he humiliated me in front of 200 people. You watched him disown me. You did not defend me. Not once. I know. Do you understand what that means? It means you are just as guilty as he is. Maybe more, because you knew the truth. You knew I did not deserve his cruelty, and you let it happen anyway. She was crying now, full sobs shaking her shoulders. I know. I am a coward. I have always been a coward. I chose comfort over courage. I chose silence over protecting you. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Does Jessica know? No. Nobody knows except me and George. And now me. And now you. I sat back down, my legs suddenly unable to hold me up. Everything made sense now. Every cruel word, every comparison, every dismissal. I had not been imagining it. I had not been oversensitive or dramatic. George had genuinely hated me, and he had never hidden it. He just had not told me why. Do I have any other family? I asked. From Daniel's side? He had a sister, Margaret. She lives in Boston. She does not know about you either. So I have an aunt I have never met. Yes. We sat in silence for a while. I did not know what to feel. Anger? Sadness? Relief? All of it swirled together into something too complicated to name. What do you want from me? I asked finally. Nothing, my mother said. I just thought you deserved to know the truth. I should have told you years ago. I was wrong to keep it from you. You were wrong about a lot of things. I know. She stood up slowly. I will go now. But Ellie, for what it is worth, I do love you. I know I have done a terrible job of showing it. I know I have failed you in every way that matters. But I do love you. Love is not just a feeling, Mom. It is actions. It is showing up. It is defending someone when they need it. It is choosing them, even when it is hard. You have never done any of those things for me. I know, she whispered. She walked to the door, then paused. The man you married, is he really who he says he is? Yes. Then I am glad. I am glad you found someone who values you, even if your father and I never did. She left. I sat in the empty apartment, holding a truth that changed everything and nothing all at once. I was not George's daughter. I had never been his daughter. And somehow, that made all the pain of the last 28 years both worse and easier to bear. Worse because it meant every moment of rejection had been deliberate. He had known from the time I was 2 years old that I was not his, and he had punished me for it my entire life. Easier because it meant it really had not been my fault. I had not failed to earn his love. His love had never been available to me in the first place. When Alex came home that evening, I told him everything. He held me while I cried, and then he said something I would never forget. Family is not blood. Family is choice, and I choose you. Every day. Forever. It was the first time in my life that someone had ever made me feel like I was enough exactly as I was. I woke up Monday morning to my phone vibrating nonstop. Not just a few notifications. Hundreds. The screen was a blur of Instagram tags, Twitter mentions, Facebook notifications, and text messages from numbers I did not recognize. My first thought was that maybe people were being supportive. Maybe the truth was coming out. Maybe someone had fact-checked and realized Alex was real. I opened Instagram first. My hands went cold. Jessica's account. Posted 6 hours ago, which meant she had been up at 4 in the morning crafting this. A long, detailed thread with multiple screenshots and photos. I need to address what happened at my wedding. My sister Ellie showed up with a man claiming to be Alexander Barrett, a billionaire tech entrepreneur. She presented what she said was a marriage certificate. After investigating, I discovered the truth, and I feel I need to share it to protect others from falling for similar scams. The thread continued with screenshots. One showed a man who looked vaguely like Alex, but was not Alex, with a caption claiming this was the real Alexander Barrett from a Forbes article. Another showed what Jessica claimed was an actor for hire website, though the link was too blurry to verify. A third showed the marriage certificate with red circles around various elements, claiming they were photoshopped. My family has been dealing with Ellie's mental health struggles for years. We have tried to help her, but she has refused treatment. When she showed up at my wedding with this elaborate hoax, we realized how serious things had become. My heart breaks for her, but I also need to protect my new husband and our families from this behavior. The post had 70,000 likes. 70,000. The comments were a nightmare. This is so sad. I hope she gets the help she needs. Imagine hiring a fake husband for your sister's wedding. That's next level crazy. The family is being so gracious. I would have had her arrested. Mental illness is real, y'all. Prayers for the family. But that was not all. My father had posted on Facebook, something he rarely did. His post was more measured, but equally damaging. It is with a heavy heart that I address recent events. My daughter Ellie has struggled with honesty and stability for many years. We have tried to support her, but yesterday's incident at Jessica's wedding showed us that professional intervention is needed. We are exploring options for getting her help. Please respect our privacy during this difficult time. And please do not believe the false narrative that Ellie is married to Alexander Barrett. This is not true, and spreading this claim is causing harm to a real person whose identity is being misused. Aunt Linda had reshared both posts with long supportive comments. Cousin Amanda had created a whole thread with supposed examples of times I had lied in the past, most of which were either taken out of context or completely fabricated. Uncle Frank had posted the fountain video again, this time with a caption about interventions gone wrong. But the truly viral part was when someone found an old photo of me from college. I was at a costume party dressed as a princess, wearing a plastic crown and holding a toy scepter. Someone had captioned it, "She's been pretending to be royalty for years." That photo, completely unrelated to anything, had been shared 40,000 times. The hashtag trending locally was fake husband. People were making memes. One showed me in the fountain with a caption, "When you hire an actor but forget to check his IMDb." Another used a screenshot from the video of Alex arriving. Point of view, "Your fake husband shows up in style." I showed Alex. His face went through several emotions. Shock, anger, then cold fury. "This is defamation," he said. "This is blatant, provable defamation." He immediately called his legal team. Within an hour, our apartment was full of lawyers with tablets and documents, taking screenshots, archiving posts, building a case. But while they worked, the damage continued to spread. Business Insider published an article. "Is Alexander Barrett married? Claims surface after Connecticut wedding incident." The article was careful not to accuse anyone of anything, but it presented both sides as equally credible. My family's lies and our truth given equal weight. Tech blogs picked it up. Alexander Barrett marriage controversy. What we know. Again, positioning it as an open question rather than verifiable fact. Some of Alex's colleagues started reaching out to him privately. His board members, his investors, people who were concerned about his personal life affecting his business reputation. Then came the business impact. Alex had been in final negotiations for a massive partnership with a European tech conglomerate. $500 million. Months of work. The deal was supposed to close by the end of the week. That afternoon his phone rang. It was their lead counsel. "Mr. Barrett, we need to discuss some concerns that have come up." Alex put it on speaker so I could hear. "What concerns?" "There have been some allegations circulating online. Questions about your personal life. Our board is requesting clarification before we proceed with the agreement." "Clarification about what, specifically?" "Your marital status. There are conflicting reports. We need official documentation. I will send you my marriage certificate, wedding photos, anything you need. We appreciate that. However, given the nature of the allegations, our board wants to wait until this matter is resolved publicly before proceeding. We are not canceling the deal, just postponing until the situation is clear." After he hung up, Alex sat very still. "They are spooked," he said. "If one deal is spooked, others will be too." He was right. Over the next 24 hours, 3 more business deals were put on hold pending resolution of his personal situation. His stock in 2 publicly traded companies dipped 3%. Business journalists started speculating about what was really going on. Some sided with us. Many remained neutral. A few seemed to enjoy the scandal. Meanwhile, my own life was collapsing. I worked as a social worker at a nonprofit agency serving at-risk families. My supervisor called me Tuesday morning. "Ellie, we need to talk. Several clients have seen the news coverage. Some are uncomfortable. The board wants you to take leave until this is resolved." "Leave? Are you firing me?" "Not firing. Just leave. Paid leave. Until things settle down." But we both knew what that meant. If the narrative did not change, I would lose my job. Social workers need to have credibility, especially with vulnerable families. If they thought I was unstable or dishonest, I could not help them effectively. My college friends were divided. Some reached out supportively. Others sent careful, probing messages. "Is everything okay? We are worried about you." Translation: "We believe what your family is saying." I stopped checking social media by Wednesday. It was too much. Every refresh brought new cruelty, new lies, new strangers weighing in on my mental health and my supposed delusions. Alex's PR team prepared a statement. They gathered every piece of evidence. Marriage certificate with official seals, photos from our wedding 6 months ago, testimony from the officiant, bank statements showing joint accounts, documentation of Alex's identity from multiple sources. They prepared a comprehensive press release with irrefutable proof. We released it Wednesday afternoon. It should have ended things. It did not. My family doubled down, Jessica posted. "I have seen the so-called evidence. It is sophisticated, but it is still fake. I know my sister. I know what she is capable of. I am standing by my original statements." My father went on a local news channel, played the concerned parent. "My daughter is very clever. She has always been good at manipulating situations. The documents look real because she has had months to work on this story. But I know the truth. A billionaire would not marry my daughter. I say that not to be cruel, but to be realistic. She is a social worker. She lives modestly. How would she even meet someone like that? The whole thing is absurd." That quote, "a billionaire would not marry my daughter," became its own meme. People shared it as an example of harsh parenting. But many also agreed with the logic. How would a social worker meet a billionaire? It seemed implausible enough that people were willing to dismiss the evidence. Some people did believe us. Tech insiders who knew Alex confirmed our marriage. Business contacts vouched for him. But in the court of public opinion, doubt is easier to spread than truth. By Thursday, I had stopped leaving the apartment. Alex had essentially paused his business life to deal with this. We were both trapped, watching our reputations and our lives get destroyed by lies that spread faster than truth. And my family was winning. On Friday, exactly 1 week after the wedding, Alex's lawyers filed formal defamation lawsuits against George, Jessica, and Patricia. The suits were comprehensive, detailing every false statement, every malicious post, every provable lie. We were asking for $10 million in damages and demanding public retractions. My father's response came Monday morning, not through his lawyer, through the police. 2 officers showed up at our apartment at 7:30 in the morning. I answered the door in my bathrobe, coffee in hand, assuming they were there about the defamation case. Maybe to serve papers or ask questions. "Ellie Harrison?" the older officer asked. "Yes. We need to speak with you about some missing property. May we come in?" Alex appeared behind me. "What is this about?" "Are you Alexander Barrett?" "I am. And I am asking what this is about before you enter my home." The officer showed us a document. A police report filed by George Harrison claiming theft of family heirlooms. "Mister, Harrison is alleging that jewelry and coins belonging to the family were taken from their home approximately 2 years ago. He believes his daughter Ellie is responsible. He is requesting their return. My stomach dropped. What jewelry? A diamond necklace, earrings, and ring set. Also a collection of gold coins. Total estimated value $225,000. I knew immediately what he meant. My grandmother's jewelry. The pieces she had left to me specifically in her will when she died 3 years ago. Those were left to me by my grandmother. They are mine. I have the will that proves it. Do you have the items in your possession? Yes. They are in our safe, because they belong to me. Mr. Harrison claims your grandmother was not of sound mind when she made that will. He is challenging it and requesting the items be returned immediately. We need to verify that you have them. Alex stepped forward. Officers, I am calling our lawyer right now. This is harassment. Those items were legally left to my wife. We have documentation. We still need to see the items, sir. We have a warrant. They showed us the warrant. It was real, signed by a judge. We had no choice. Alex called our lawyer while I went to the safe and retrieved my grandmother's jewelry. The necklace was beautiful. Art Deco diamonds. Grandma had worn it at her own wedding in 1953. She had held my hand when I was 24 and told me she wanted me to have it someday. She was the only person in my family who ever made me feel loved. The coins were in a small wooden box. 50 gold coins that my grandfather had collected. Grandma left them to me because she knew George would just sell them. She wanted me to have something valuable, something secure. The officers took photos, documented serial numbers on some of the coins, and made notes. You will need to bring these down to the station later today for evidence holding, the older officer said. Evidence holding? I said. They are mine. You cannot just take them. We can if they are part of an active investigation, ma'am. Your father has filed theft charges. Until the matter is resolved in court, they need to be held as evidence. After they left, I sat on the floor and cried. Those items were the only things I had from Grandma. The only physical connection to the one person in my family who had truly loved me. And now they were going to be locked in an evidence room, while lawyers argued over whether a dying woman had been competent enough to choose what to do with her own possessions. Alex's lawyer, David, arrived an hour later. This is legal warfare, he said. George is trying to drain your resources, damage your credibility, and cause you maximum pain. The theft charges probably will not stick, but the process is the punishment. This will tie up the items for months, maybe longer. Can he really claim Grandma was not of sound mind? He can claim anything. Proving it is another matter. But yes, wills can be challenged. We will need to get testimony from her doctors, anyone who knew her at the end of her life. We will need to show she was competent. It is doable, but it takes time and money. Time and money we were already spending on the defamation case. Time and money that was piling up while Alex's business deals remained frozen and my job remained on indefinite hold. But George was not done. By Tuesday, the story had shifted again in the media. Wedding hoax woman also accused of theft. The headlines made it sound like I was a criminal, like I had stolen from my family and was now trying to cover it up with fake marriage claims. Comments flooded in again. She stole from her own family? Wow. This keeps getting worse. The family needs to press charges. Many people did not read past the headlines. They did not see that the items were left to me in a will. They just saw theft accusations and assumed guilt. Alex's board called an emergency meeting. 3 of his 7 board members wanted him to take a temporary leave of absence until personal matters were resolved. Alex refused. He told them that if they wanted him gone, they would have to vote him out, and he controlled enough shares to prevent that. But the tension was destroying working relationships he had built over years. Another deal fell through, then another. His business partners were not ending relationships, just postponing decisions, waiting to see how things shook out. But in business, waiting is often the same as ending. Opportunities have timelines. Competitors move in. Momentum dies. By Wednesday, we had lost track of the financial impact. 500 million in direct deals gone. Probably another 200 million in indirect effects. His company's stock had dropped 8% total. Business publications were running think pieces about reputation management and the personal lives of CEOs. I felt responsible for all of it. Every dollar lost. Every deal postponed. Every board member questioning his judgment. He had married me 6 months ago, and now his 15-year career was under siege. "I think we should divorce," I said one night. We were sitting in the living room, surrounded by legal documents and news articles and printouts of social media posts. Alex looked at me like I had suggested burning the apartment down. "Absolutely not. This is destroying your life, your company, everything you have built. If we divorce, they win the narrative, but you get your life back. They want to break us. That is the point. They want to isolate you, make you think you are alone, make you think you deserve this. We are not giving them that satisfaction. But the cost, I do not care about the cost. I care about you. We face this together, or not at all." I wanted to believe him. But sitting there, watching his phone light up with another concerned investor, another postponed meeting, another article questioning his judgment, I felt like I was drowning. And this time, there was no fountain to pull myself out of. This time, the water just kept rising. It was Marcus, Alex's head of security, who changed everything. He had been quietly working in the background for 2 weeks, and on a Thursday afternoon 3 weeks after the wedding, he requested an urgent meeting. We met at Alex's downtown office. Marcus was a former FBI agent, methodical and serious. He set up his laptop and said, "You are going to want to see this." What he showed us was devastating. And I mean devastating to George, not to us. Marcus had been investigating George's business, his finances, his connections. He had started with basic background, then gone deeper when things did not add up. What he found was a web of fraud that went back 6 years. "George has been embezzling from his own company," Marcus explained, pulling up spreadsheets and bank records. "He has been taking money systematically, small amounts at first, then increasingly larger. Total amount is about $3.8 million. Alex leaned forward. "How?" "Fake vendor accounts, inflated expenses, bonuses he authorized for himself that the board never approved. He has been very careful, but not careful enough. I have paper trails for all of it. The company is in trouble," Marcus continued. "Badly. They are near bankruptcy. George has been hiding the losses while paying himself. Employees do not know yet, but the company probably has less than 6 months before it collapses." That was shocking enough. But Marcus was not finished. "Here is where it gets interesting," he said. "George did not just arrange Jessica's wedding. He arranged her marriage, to Todd Whitmore specifically." "What do you mean arranged?" I asked. Marcus pulled up more documents, emails, bank statements, plans. Todd's family has significant wealth. His parents run a charitable foundation worth about $50 million. George had been planning to get appointed to the foundation board after Jessica and Todd got married. Family connection, right? Seems reasonable. But that was just step 1, Marcus continued. Once he was on the board, he was going to embezzle from the foundation too. He had already set up shell companies to receive the funds. He had fake invoices ready to go. And here is the truly evil part. He was going to frame Todd for it. Alex and I stared at the screen. Marcus showed us detailed plans George had written in encrypted files. Plans to plant evidence on Todd's computer. Plans to make it look like Todd was stealing from his own family's foundation. Plans to ensure Todd would go to prison while George walked away with millions. Jessica would divorce Todd, get a settlement, and George would help himself to foundation money while Todd was in prison and unable to defend himself. It is actually brilliant in its cruelty. If he had pulled it off, he would have gotten away with millions and destroyed an innocent man's life. "How did you find all this?" I asked. George is not as tech-savvy as he thinks. He used encryption, but basic encryption. He kept detailed records because he is the kind of person who needs to see his plans written out. Once we got into his systems, we found everything. "This is enough for criminal prosecution?" Alex asked. "More than enough. This is wire fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. He is looking at serious federal time." We sat in silence for a moment, processing. My father was not just cruel, he was a criminal. And he had been willing to destroy Todd, a man who had done nothing wrong except marry into the wrong family. "What do we do with this?" I asked. Alex looked at me. "That is your choice. He is your father. Biologically or not, he raised you. If you want to handle this quietly, we can." I thought about that fountain, thought about 28 years of cruelty, thought about being disowned in front of 200 people, thought about the lies destroying my reputation, thought about Alex losing business deals, thought about my grandmother's jewelry sitting in an evidence locker. But I also thought about Todd, an innocent man who had no idea he had married into a family that was planning to destroy him. He deserved to know. "We tell Todd's parents," I said. "They deserve to know what George was planning. Then we let them decide what to do legally." Alex nodded. "Marcus, can you arrange a meeting?" Todd's parents, Jessica, Todd, George, Patricia, all of them. We present the evidence together. Marcus made calls. It took 2 days to coordinate schedules, but finally, on Saturday afternoon, we met at Todd's parents' estate in Greenwich. It was a beautiful property, old money, understated elegance. Catherine and Richard Whitmore greeted us politely but warily. They knew about the wedding drama, but did not know why we had requested this meeting. George arrived with Patricia. He looked smug. He thought he was winning. Jessica came with Todd, who looked confused about why he was there. We gathered in the Whitmore's library, a room lined with books and Persian rugs, and Marcus set up his presentation. "Thank you all for coming," Alex began. "We asked for this meeting because we have discovered information that affects everyone here. Information about fraud, theft, and conspiracy." George laughed. "What are you talking about? Is this about the jewelry? Because we are handling that through legal channels." "This is about you, George," Alex said coldly, "and what you have been doing for the last 6 years." Marcus began presenting evidence. The embezzlement from George's company first, spreadsheets showing the systematic theft, bank records showing deposits to offshore accounts. The documentation was overwhelming. George started denying it immediately. "That is fake. You made that up." "It is from your own company's servers," Marcus replied. "And from banks. None of this is fabricated. All of it can be verified by independent auditors." Catherine and Richard were listening intently. Patricia looked like she might be sick. Jessica was staring at her father, her face draining of color. Then Marcus showed the Todd scheme, the emails George had sent to himself, the plans for the shell companies, the fake invoices ready to be submitted to the foundation, the detailed timeline for framing Todd. Todd stood up slowly. "You were going to frame me? For stealing from my own family?" "No," George said quickly. "That was just contingency planning. I never would have actually." "You wrote detailed instructions," Marcus interrupted. "You created false evidence. You set up bank accounts to receive the stolen funds. This was not theoretical. This was a plan you were ready to execute." Richard Whitmore's face went dark red. "You were going to send my son to prison? You were going to steal from our foundation?" Catherine added. "From money meant for charity?" Jessica was crying. "Dad, tell them this is not true." But George could not. The evidence was there, undeniable, provable, real. "I should have known," Todd said quietly. "You were too eager for the marriage, too pushy about me introducing you to my parents, too interested in the foundation." He looked at Jessica. "Did you know?" "No." Jessica was hysterical now. "I swear I did not know anything. Dad, tell them I did not know." George finally broke. Not with remorse, with rage. "This is her fault," he said, pointing at me. All of this is because of her. If she had just been normal, if she had just stayed away, none of this would have happened. Even now, he was blaming me. For his crimes, for his choices, for the consequences of his own actions. No, Alex said quietly. This is because of your own greed and cruelty. You destroyed your own life. Richard immediately pulled out his phone and called their family lawyer. I am filing criminal charges, he said to George. For fraud, for conspiracy, for attempted theft. You are going to prison. George looked around the room, realizing he was cornered. No way out. No one to blame. No escape. You will regret this, he said to me one last time, but I felt nothing when I looked at him. No fear, no anger, just pity for a man who had destroyed himself and everyone around him. I have spent my whole life trying to earn your love, I said, and now I realize it was never worth having. We left the Whitmore estate with our lawyers, ready to hand everything over to prosecutors. George's life as he knew it was over. And strangely, I did not feel triumphant. I just felt free. The arrest happened quickly. Within 48 hours of our meeting at the Whitmore estate, federal agents showed up at George's house with warrants. The charges were extensive. Wire fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy to commit fraud, and a handful of others that Alex's lawyers explained to me in detail, but mostly sounded like legal versions of, he is a really bad person who did really bad things. The arrest made the news. Not just local news, national news. Connecticut businessman arrested for multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. The same outlets that had questioned my marriage were now reporting on my father's crimes. The same social media accounts that had mocked me were suddenly very quiet. George's lawyer tried to negotiate, tried to claim he was innocent, that the evidence was fabricated, that this was all a setup. But Marcus had done his job too well. Every document was authentic. Every bank record verifiable. Every plan traceable directly to George's own computer. Within 2 weeks, his lawyer advised him to take a plea deal. 12 years in federal prison, full restitution to his company, and to anyone else he had defrauded, and forfeiture of all assets. George took the deal. He had no choice. A trial would have meant 20 years or more. 12 years seemed merciful by comparison, though I am not sure anyone involved felt particularly merciful toward him. The impact on the family was immediate. The house, the cars, the country club membership, all of it was gone. Seized to pay back what he had stolen. Patricia, who had not worked in 30 years, suddenly found herself with nothing. She was 54 years old with no job, no home, and a husband in federal prison. Jessica's life collapsed too, just in a different way. Todd wanted nothing to do with her, not because she had done anything wrong, but because he could not separate her from what her father had planned. The foundation of their marriage had been George's scheme. Every introduction, every family dinner, every moment had been tainted by her father's ulterior motives. Todd filed for annulment within a month. Their marriage, which had lasted only 3 weeks past the wedding, was erased as if it had never happened. Jessica lost the wealthy husband, the lifestyle, the future she had planned. The $200,000 wedding was a memory of the worst day of her life rather than the best. She moved back in with Patricia temporarily, both of them trying to figure out how to rebuild from nothing. About a month after George's arrest, I received a text from Jessica, just 2 sentences. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I did not respond right away. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let her sit with her apology unanswered the way she had let me sit in that fountain, but I am not wired for cruelty the way she is. A few days later I wrote back, I know you didn't know about Dad's crimes, but you did know you were hurting me at the wedding. You enjoyed it. Her response took a while. You're right. I'm sorry for that too. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know. I never responded to that message. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday Jessica and I will have a relationship again. But not today. Not soon. She made choices that night. Choices to mock me. To laugh at my humiliation. To prioritize her perfect wedding over basic decency. Those choices were hers, and the consequences are hers to live with. Patricia called me repeatedly in those first few weeks. The calls started desperate. She had nowhere to live. She had no money. She needed help. I did not answer the first dozen calls. I needed time to process everything. My whole life had been a lie. She had known I was not George's daughter since I was 2 years old, and she had let him torture me for 26 years. That was not something I could just forgive, because suddenly she needed me. But I am also not the kind of person who can watch someone, even someone who hurt me, become homeless. So I finally answered. "What do you need?" I asked. "Ellie, I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I have nowhere to go. The bank took the house. All the accounts are frozen. I have $300 to my name." I talked to Alex about it. He said whatever I decided was fine with him. He would support me either way. So I made a choice. Not for her, for me. Because I needed to be able to live with myself. I set Patricia up in a modest one-bedroom apartment. Not in Connecticut. She needed a fresh start, and so did I. I found her a place in Rhode Island, close enough to visit but far enough to maintain distance. I gave her a monthly stipend for 2 years, enough to cover rent and basic expenses. And I paid for her to go back to school. Before she married George, Patricia had been in nursing school. She had dropped out when she got pregnant with Jessica. I paid for her to enroll in a community college nursing program. If she was going to rebuild her life, she needed a real career, real skills, real independence. "Thank you," she said when I told her the plan. "I don't deserve this." "No, you don't," I agreed. "But I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this because I need to know I'm better than the people who hurt me. You'll have 2 years of support. What you do with it is up to you." She took the opportunity seriously. She enrolled in classes, got a part-time job at a medical office, started seeing a therapist. Over the following months, she would occasionally text me updates. Passed her exam, got certified, landed a full-time job at a hospital. She was rebuilding, slowly. Our relationship remained cordial, but distant. We talked every few weeks. She apologized regularly, and I acknowledged the apologies without quite forgiving. Maybe someday I will forgive her fully. Maybe not. But at least she was taking responsibility for her own life now. While my family was imploding, the public narrative was shifting dramatically. Once George was arrested, every outlet that had questioned my marriage suddenly ran corrections. Billionaire marriage confirmed. Father arrested for fraud. The story became about George's crimes, rather than my supposed lies. Jessica deleted all her social media posts about me. She posted a brief apology, but the damage was done. People who had believed her now felt fooled. The hashtag changed from fake husband to something else entirely, something that dragged her rather than me. I did not participate in that. I did not need revenge. I just needed vindication. Alex's business recovered quickly once the truth came out. The deals that had been postponed were renegotiated. His stock prices bounced back. The board members who had questioned him apologized, though Alex did not forget who had stood by him and who had wavered. Some relationships in business never quite recover, and he made note of who had shown their true colors. The defamation lawsuit was settled out of court. George had no money, but Jessica and Patricia issued public apologies and retractions. That was all I wanted. Not money, just acknowledgement that they had been wrong. My job at the social services agency welcomed me back. My supervisor apologized for putting me on leave, though I understood why she had done it. Working with vulnerable families requires trust, and the allegations had threatened that. But now that the truth was public, I could return to the work I loved. More than that, the experience gave me deeper empathy for my clients. So many of them were escaping toxic families, abusive situations, people who were supposed to love them but chose cruelty instead. I understood that now, in a way I had not before. I started a support group at the agency for adult children of narcissistic parents. It filled up immediately. Apparently, I was far from alone in my experience. The theft charges against me were dropped, Once the truth about the will came out, George's lawyer had been arguing that Grandma was not of sound mind, but her doctors testified that she had been completely competent. The will stood. I got my grandmother's jewelry back from evidence holding. The first thing I did was wear her necklace. I put it on and looked in the mirror, and I felt her with me. The only person in that family who had truly loved me. She had known what George was. She had seen how he treated me. That was why she left me the jewelry specifically, why she made sure it was in writing. She had tried to give me something he could not take away, and in the end, she succeeded. I reached out to Daniel Harrison's sister, Margaret. It was a strange phone call. "Hello, you don't know me, but I'm your niece." She was shocked, then welcoming. We met for coffee in Boston. She showed me photos of Daniel, told me stories about him. He had been kind and creative, exactly as Patricia had described. He had never married, never had other children. Margaret said he had carried a sadness with him that she never fully understood. Now she knew why. He had loved Patricia and lost her, never knowing she had been pregnant with his child. Through Margaret, I met my half-siblings from Daniel's side. Cousins I never knew existed. They welcomed me into their family without hesitation. No questions about whether I was worthy. No comparisons to a golden child. Just acceptance. This is what family was supposed to feel like. Alex and I renewed our vows 6 months after the wedding disaster. This time we did it our way. A small ceremony at our lake house upstate. 20 people, close friends. Margaret and my new family from Daniel's side. No one from George's family. It was intimate and genuine, full of people who had chosen to be there because they loved us, not because of obligation or status. We started talking about starting a family of our own. Alex wanted to try for biological children. I wanted to adopt. We decided we would do both. We wanted to give a child what I never had, a home where they were valued, loved, and chosen every single day. Alex increased his philanthropic work, especially in programs for at-risk youth. I consulted on several of his initiatives, helping design programs that would actually help kids, rather than just looking good on paper. We both knew what it was like to be undervalued. We wanted to make sure no kid fell through the cracks the way I almost had. Our home became a place of peace. We hosted dinners for friends. We took long weekends at the lake house. We built a life based on mutual respect, genuine love, and the understanding that family is not about blood. It is about who shows up, who stays, who chooses you when things get hard. 1 year after the fountain incident, Alex and I were sitting on the dock at the lake house on a quiet Sunday morning, coffee in hand, watching the water reflect the sunrise. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. "Thinking about you today. I'm in therapy. I'm learning about the family dynamics and my role in hurting you. I'm sorry. I hope someday you can forgive me." I showed Alex. He read it and asked, "What do you want to do?" I thought for a moment. A year ago, I would have been desperate for that apology, would have clung to any sign that my sister might love me. But now, I had built a life full of people who already did. I did not need Jessica's approval or forgiveness or relationship. If she wanted to heal, I was glad for her. But I did not need to be part of that process. "Maybe someday," I said, "but not today. Today I'm just going to be happy." I put the phone down and looked out at the water. A year ago, I had been standing in a fountain, water dripping from my hair, 200 people laughing at my humiliation. My father had screamed that I could not even find a date, that I was an embarrassment. The crowd had applauded. I had pulled myself up, mascara running, and said, "Remember this moment." They probably did not remember it the way I did. For them, it was probably a funny story they told at dinner parties. The crazy woman who showed up with a fake husband and ended up in a fountain. But for me, it was something else entirely. It was the moment everything changed. The moment I stopped trying to earn love from people who could not give it. The moment I chose myself. That fountain was cold and humiliating, but it washed away every false thing I had been clinging to. my family, my need for their approval, my belief that I was the problem. When you are pushed into the water by people who are supposed to love you, you have two choices: drown or learn to swim on your own. I chose to swim, and I found out I was stronger than I ever knew. Looking back now, I realize that sometimes the worst day of your life is actually the best thing that ever happened to you, because it shows you the truth. And once you see the truth, you can finally start living authentically. I learned that family is not who raised you. Family is who refuses to give up on you. And if you do not have that, you build it yourself. You become it for others. You create the love you never received and give it to people who deserve it. I learned that seeking approval from people who cannot give it is self-destruction. That I was always worthy, always enough. The problem was never me. I learned that forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. I can understand my mother's weakness without giving her full access to my life. I can acknowledge George's pain without excusing his cruelty. I can hope Jessica finds healing without being part of her journey. Most importantly, I learned that happiness is not about proving yourself to anyone. It is about building a life that feels authentic and good, surrounded by people who celebrate you rather than diminish you. So if you are reading this and you come from a family that does not value you, let me tell you something. You do not need people who do not choose you. You do not need approval from those who cannot see your worth. Sometimes losing everything that does not serve you is how you find everything that does. Family is not who raised you. Family is who refuses to give up on you. And that is enough. That is more than enough. That is everything. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from toxic family members? How did you find the strength to choose yourself? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who is struggling with the same decision. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories about resilience, justice, and finding your strength. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, someone who is still trying to earn love from people who cannot give it, please share this video with them. Sometimes we all need a reminder that we are worthy, exactly as we are. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it brings you comfort, strength, or at least the knowledge that you are not alone. Whatever you are facing, whatever family pain you are carrying, remember, you are stronger than you know. You are worthy of real love. And sometimes, the best thing that ever happens to you looks like the worst day of your life. Take care of yourselves. Choose people who choose you. And never forget, you are enough.